voted to approve the minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, privilege of the floor, a public comment section. I see we have a few people from the public here, and would anybody like to make any sort of comment during privilege of the floor?
Is the audio working now?
Just,
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
are you all set? Any sort of comment?
He'll be presenting.
Oh, he's presenting later,
Yeah.
sorry. All right, cool. Anybody else at this time? No. Okay, so our first, is he from New Wave then?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that took a really long time to get to you, Kevin, but so Kevin is here from New Wave Energy, so.
Thanks for having me this morning. I won't take much time. We have a municipal energy management program, and we're proposing a fixed rate for the town's electric supply cost. So currently the town uses a variable rate with RG&E. And with variable rates, kind of susceptible to price swings and anything the open market has in store. So we're projecting a lot of things to be much more volatile for the next several years to come. So a fixed rate allows the town to take control over that electric spend. It ensures savings. It's much more budget friendly. And this program, I believe, is already being utilized for natural gas for the town. So we're proposing the same thing for electric. This month, April, May is really the best time to do this of the year. So the timing's really good. And we're seeing this strategy used by most municipalities and public entities across the state, across 3 states, really. All the RFPs we're doing are coming in for fixed rates. So this strategy is really working for municipalities. So formally, we're proposing a 12-month fixed rate of 0.066 cents. We also have a 24-month fixed rate at 0.068 cents. Those numbers were not on the actual document I sent over, the 24-month, but I updated that yesterday. So the second page of the document just tells us a little bit about us, tells you a little bit about us. We work with a lot of municipalities, primarily doing fixed rates and community solar discounts, which is a nice sort of program. And then the cost savings analysis, I think, is the 4th page of that document. Not sure if everyone has it in front of them. But, okay.
Now, this was sent out in the last report a couple weeks ago. The general information on this, not with the updated funds.
Right.
It was sent out with the initial cost savings. So they had the graphs and it had the other documents and the other information.
The only thing that changed is we just keep updating the numbers. They kind of liken them to like an interest rate. They kind of expire and you kind of reset them. That's all. And then the last page of that is just some reference. We work with some neighbors and some school districts in the East Rochester, Eastern Monroe County, and across Monroe County as well. So in my world, this is a kind of a no-brainer. It's an easier one. So just wanted to propose that to the town this morning. Yeah, there's everything. Thanks for sharing.
So this is the nuts and bolts are the same as what has been sent out earlier, especially with the graphing and the other information.
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify, this is only for our town properties. This is for our facilities. This is for our water pumps. This is for the water tanks. This is for parks. This is just for the town. It is not something that is for residents. It is town and it is town only.
Correct.
Just by locking into this and locking into that fixed rate right now gets us and avoids us that volatility. What you had, the information that was sent out previously a couple weeks ago, that was not based on this, and that showed what was the savings. I think the savings on that was $8,500, and this potential savings locking in at this 0.66 cents, 0.066 is
That's the variable, right? And the 0.68 was the fixed rate?
no, 0.68 is a 24-month
Okay,
lock.
and the 0.66 was a 12.
0.66 is a 12-month lock, and you can see
Correct.
graphing there where it fits, kind of where we have been historically with variable rate and where that fixed rate would keep us and the potential cost savings on that. So that's why I wanted to invite Kevin in to share with the finance committee and share with the board, because you're here then in a full board meeting. If we decide to move forward with it, we would obviously bring forward a resolution. And have more discussion at a board meeting to see if we wanted to move forward with it. But have any discussion and have any questions. We did reach out to the other company that,
It was APGD, but the information that they gave me to send in,
yeah,
our account information, I couldn't seem to get through to anyone.
so there was another company that had reached out. We were in communication with them. And Jess went to follow through with getting information from them, but they. That was not successful.
Okay, got it.
How did
Yeah.
it come about? I mean, did New Wave come to us or you guys?
So I met Kevin were we in Albany or New York City? We were in New York City, right?
So
Location of towns, yeah.
Yeah, we work with several towns there over the years. We've been in business 15 years, 14 years, 15 years this fall. We're having a big party, but we've worked with a great deal of municipalities and school districts and kind of understand certainly the position of public monies and the responsibility of town boards, village boards, and that's actually all I do with the company is municipal and public entities. So I enjoy it a great deal.
What is your track record with all the people that you deal with? And follow-up is, how do you do that? How are you able, looking at that chart that's on the screen right now? You know, there are a lot of months where the rate is higher than, you know, some of the other months.
Yeah.
Kind of an averaging there, I guess, but how are you able to do that? Is this dependent on using a certain amount of green energy, or how are you able to fix that for a year?
We fix it for a year by buying it all at once, like a financial hedge. So how we save customers money is that we put up all the money for a year. We buy directly from where RG&E and NYSEG buy the energy. We buy it from the New York State ISO. And we are just a much more, we focus just on supply. So we're a lot more lean than a utility company. So what we do is we buy these hedges and we're able to fix rates. So you have that budget stability. So it's a financial strategy to answer the question. And we've been successful, been doing it a long time.
Like pre-buying your lawn care for the summer for a lower price instead of paying on a monthly
Yeah,
basis.
well, that's,
Any kind of commodity hedge like that, yeah. Like diesel fuel, I don't know if you do that for diesel or salt or anything for the town, something like that.
How long?
Districts rather.
14 years.
14 years. So what's the next closest town that's doing that to us, town or village?
That we're working with?
Yes,
I think Town of Victor would be closest.
that's good. That's enough.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Victor's the closest one that use. John, did you, sorry, I'm not sure
Do it yourself too, according to this.
which direction.
Look
you're
at
going.
Terry on the iPad. I'm very excited. John, did you have a question?
Are your forecasted savings based on our kilowatt usage last year multiplied by the fixed proposed rate?
Yes, so it is, we have exactly how much you used historically. So we have the access to that. So all that usage is, based on 1 year ago. So we're forecasting this year, and then some of that variable rate is public, some of it's industry forecasting, but the utilities and energy companies like us use the same forecasting models to forecast rates. That is why these strategies change every day, really. We refresh, and just like any other commodities market. But to answer the question, yeah, that usage is specific to the town
Based on last year's usage.
based on last year's. Yeah, so you're set to use 742,000 kilowatt hours. That's about the size of 70 or 80 houses.
How do you, or what, so if we signed on with this program, would we be paying you or would we still be paying RG&E or?
Still pay RG&E. That's the great thing about it. No checks are cut differently or anything.
How do you make money?
We make a penny on, on this, we don't make a lot on the fixed rates for the municipalities. So we make a little bit the same way, municipalities do, or sorry, the same way utilities do on the supply rate. So, it's not real big margins, but we make, a small margin on the fixed rate. I don't know exactly what it is.
So we don't pay you anything, you're passing along a savings to us and then you're taking a little slice for yourselves.
Correct. We're on the last page of the bill, but you write a check, the office, whatever office at the town, accounts payable clerks, they write a check the same way to RG&E or, however, ACH, however you pay your bills, does not change. Which is, it's great. Yeah, it's a great part of the program.
And there's no upfront cost.
No.
Other than, we're locked into 0.06 cents.
That's all, yeah.
And if anybody is, I mean, I've used an ESCO before, and it's the same. If you look at your line item, it's like you pay the same amount, but then if you look at your energy supply,
Yeah.
it just says energy supply, then it has the name of the
Yeah.
company and then your amount.
So this 6.6 cents is what would be available right now?
Yeah.
If we waited a month, would it be whatever you're able to get at that time or?
Correct.
Okay.
A month from now, I anticipate it being a little higher.
What
For sure.
question do we need to answer to move forward or not move forward?
We would just need consensus to move forward, and then we would just need an official proposal. So we need consensus from the board to move forward with it, to be able to put it on the agenda. And then we'd need just the official engagement paperwork from you guys and the official proposal, and then we'd have to pass a resolution at the next board meeting for that.
I'm fine with moving forward if the possibility of saving $10,000 is good.
Me as well.
Any other thoughts? I mean, sorry, this is your name.
No, I don't know if, I was just gonna.
Good.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Okay, great.
Okay, so if you wanna, I would probably say based on this information, if you wanna send that out. And then we'll target that and we would have that on the board agenda for April 22nd. So that's when we would look to pass that resolution and get the process moving.
Thank you. All right,
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care. I got all excited that we had a constituent online that I'd never seen before. I was like, this is exciting.
Now that they're offline, should we converse whether we want to do 1 year or 2 years?
Yeah, I think that, cause he,
2 year.
968.
It was point, yeah.
Yeah, 0.66 or
that's an awesome question. Because rates are gonna do nothing but go up.
Mhm. Hence the 0.68.
I mean, yeah.
They're
It
gonna-
always seems
they're
to
gonna
go
go-
Yeah,
up, like,
presidential election years is always nuts,
Always
so.
bad for utilities, right?
Yeah.
Yes, commodities in general. Yeah.
What are people's thoughts on a 2-year?
Well, you probably don't save quite as much, but it's probably, it's at, 2,
It's like,
3%, so you might only save about 95 to 97% of.
But it depends on the rate action, so I mean.
Well, no, I'm just going between 6.6 and 6.8,
Yeah, but
Maybe
it goes
a-
way up.
that's like a 3% difference and.
if we did 6.6 this year, next year, I don't think we're gonna get 6.8.
No,
Yeah.
Right, so,
no,
Right,
yeah.
oh, right, yeah, I
It'll
mean, I'm
probably be
just
like
saying that
7.4.
you don't save $9,740, you might save $9,400.
right.
But it's nice to have,
This year.
for
No.
Next
plan,
year could be
It could be more.
more.
it's nice also for planning purposes. I mean, we know how to budget properly.
But the electric is gonna be what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna go higher as soon as all you people buy your electric cars.
So these guys go out of
Then
business,
we're
we
gonna-
have a contract with them, do we owe anything?
No,
No.
if they go under, if they go out of
Goes
business,
back to
we
RG&E.
just roll right back to RG&E. And
Seems like a no-brainer.
the thing I like about this is it's not, when I was talking to him, at first I thought he was like community choice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, we went down this road.
Yeah.
It was not beneficial. It was too confusing, and he's like, I wouldn't. He actually said, he's like, I'm in this business, but I would not encourage any municipality to go with community choice.
Yeah.
Community choice solar, community choice, anything, because it is so confusing for the residents.
Mhm.
And then he started talking about this, he said, but we can offer you as a municipality set rates that you can lock into.
Yep.
And that freezes, holds your costs. I worry about where the market is. I worry about the craziness of the electric push and what's that gonna do to electric prices.
Mhm.
So I'm comfortable going with a 2-year. I don't know where everybody else is.
John, did you have that?
It's not gonna get less.
I am comfortable with 2 years. I think that everything everybody has said is how I feel about it. So I would say 2 years.
I think that's good too. So, I mean, that way. We're all just guessing what's gonna happen with them, but most of these things only go up anyway, so.
I mean,
The only way we lose is if they go down.
Terry just said, it, even if you do the math at 3%, that's only $300 off of the 9,700. So you got that savings for at least 2 years.
Mhm.
So it really equates to over $18,000 for 2 years worth of savings. So
Yeah.
I think it's like David mentioned, it's a no-brainer.
And I think the information I sent to you a couple weeks ago, that savings number was based on that higher rate.
Mhm,
So it could have been closer to that 0.68
mhm.
or 697 amount.
Okay,
So, yeah, this is. He said he hasn't seen it this low in a while,
good.
which is the best time.
So we kind of gave them the okay to go ahead.
I'm gonna email him right now. And ask him to propose, to submit a proposal for 2 years.
I was a little concerned.
Well, I have them submit for 1 and 2 again, so we
Why
can
don't you
just
ask him
see.
if you do 0.66 with both years?
I'll ask him.
Ask him, worst you can do is say no, right?
Right now.
I'll ask him.
And see if we can submit.
Yeah.
0.675.
0.00066 for 2 years. then.
Yeah, you never know.
All you can say is no.
All I can say is no.
Exactly.
How about 10 years?
Don't say no to that.
I'll lock in for 10, we'll sign him up for 10 right now.
I don't want to deal with you.
He'll be like, yeah, you guys are crazy, do not come by my booth, don't
Stop,
come by my
stop.
booth
There's-
ever again.
No Twix bars for you.
Yeah.
I was a
Um,
little concerned that this was
CCA.
kind of like it, no, Enron, I don't know if any of you ever.
Oh,
Oh.
I was around.
Oh, yeah,
They went belly up, didn't they?
Yeah,
big time.
it's really a Ponzi scheme. I mean,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, I remember that.
Okay, so Jared, did you want to talk about the muni trust?
Yeah,
issue
I
too?
just wanna talk about this real quick. They can come to the next meeting and share some information. So Muni Trust is like New York Class.
Like what?
New York Class. New York Class is a brokerage company, and Jess, you can, if I use the wrong words, you can help me out. It's basically a brokerage company that we invest through. So we have money to invest. We can invest it through New York Class. It's one of the tools that we have to invest. Muni Trust is another one of those tools. It's another place that we can say, all right, we have $3 million. And as we're going with 3+1, they can shop rates at New York Class, Muni Trust, the various banks for CD rates, and they can find the best option. It's just another entity that we can use, and is another place that we can use to invest our money.
So do they do strictly just municipal
They do
Finance?
municipal,
or public? funds?
large and small, so they do county financing, and then they do town and special district financing, like fire companies. And smaller, so we would fit in their smaller bucket,
Okay.
but they only do municipal financing.
Do they talk about the liquidity of the funds?
It's the same day liquidity,
Okay.
so, and
Like
they
New
can
York
get,
Class.
it's like New York Class, we can get our money out the same day if we need it.
Mhm.
We can invest it the same day, Muni Trust, we can invest the money the same day if we need it, if we have money there. We can get it in there within hours and get it invested. So it's very similar to New York class. It just opens up another avenue for more competition within the rates that we can get.
Is this somebody though that we would have to contract with or sign up with or? what?
No, we just say, hey, we're interested in using you as an option.
Mhm.
And then we change our investment policy to
Yes.
include.
Yeah.
We would, if we were to go forward, and again, after their this is just a preview, so we know a little bit more of the presentation. And then at the present, then it would be, okay, if we say, yeah, we would go with them, then we change our investment policy to include. New York Community Trust. And then we could use them then as one of our investment places.
The 3+1 would be looking at what
They would
these
then,
guys could.
they would then include Muni Trust in their shopping list.
Wouldn't they automatically anyway?
No, because they're not in our
Because they're not.
investment policy.
We have to put 3+1 in that policy someplace.
I don't think so because they're not.
They're not
What did you
investing.
say? They're not.
We don't invest
Giving
with
us
them,
advice.
right? We don't invest with
They're
them.
just advisors.
Yeah,
Not, no, they're not even, isn't it, they say.
They're
they're not advisors?
organizations.
yeah, they're
Gestures.
So, and so Muni Trust was at, they were in Albany at the Association of Counties, so they do a lot at the county level. But they also do a lot with the town level, so they have clientele that is that is a majority of the smaller town, the towns in this area. They have a lot in Ontario County. And again, the only financial commitment is their minimum relationship is $50,000. So if we were to invest with them,
You have to start with.
we'd have to start with 50,000. That's their only commitment.
So,
And then if we don't like them, then we can say, okay, we pull that out and then we don't use them again.
so kind of just like we do now with CDs, where we say, okay, this one's at this rate, that one's at that rate, and maybe ask, hey, can you
Right.
do any better? Because so-and-so offered me blank.
Like
We would look at NY class and we'd look at Muni Trust and say, okay, this one's a little bit higher. We're gonna
Right.
get a better rate from them. So this month we'll go there, maybe next month back to NY
Yeah.
class. So,
And again, it's just there's no upfront cost.
Yeah.
There's no commitment.
Just 50,000.
Just an option.
50,000 for the first investment. It's just another option, another place, another resource, put it that way, with no financial or no contractual obligation.
and I assume it's not like a credit union. It's definitely approved and all good to
Oh,
go
all
for
they
municipality to
do
invest. So,
And they're associated with Dreyfus Investments.
Yep.
So that's their parent. And all they do is, again, all they do is municipal. So,
hence the name Muni.
yeah, so we can have them, so this will kind of give you the chance to have, and I'll have some more information to send out to you guys on them. But I had talked to Adeline about them coming at the next meeting and just doing a little presentation and just answering any questions.
The county use them at all?
County
They
uses
have them on
them,
their list?
yes. County uses them, they're on the county, most municipalities use them. The main reason I went and talked to them, Jack Marion from Victor encouraged me to go talk to them. Because he was the one who kind of helped bring them into the county and get them involved and get their footprint in Ontario County.
So we can
And it's
put them
been
on
very
our
happy.
list and never use them.
We've
Yeah.
never used
Right,
them.
so it's, I mean, it almost.
Yeah, but I
Seems like
want,
it's nice to have options.
it's nice to
Yeah.
have options, but we need to hear from them first.
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
That
sure.
discussion and have them do their presentation first.
Okay.
But I just wanted to have that as a little primer.
Yep.
To prime the pumps and get the wheels going, and if you guys are up late at night and can't sleep,
You can read about
you
them
can
on,
Google Community Trust.
Sounds
read stuff
exciting.
that I send you.
that's where we all cuddle up with
There's,
your
once the
administrative
draft is
report.
over, there's nothing else to do.
It's our Friday night reading, the Jared's administrative. report. Okay, so the next thing on the list is a review of the financial reports, which is mainly like these guys, so. I don't know if anybody saw anything that they had any questions on in those before the next meeting. I noticed our printing costs are a little higher than normal. Is that something we need to discuss?
Because postage.
Okay.
So I do like a monthly charge back, so.
Okay,
It kind of goes up and down,
okay. All right, good.
because then I take, the departments reimburse that account.
The other one was, so the town manager contractual, who do we pay out of that one?
The contractual line, we
Yeah.
don't pay anyone out of that.
It's 12,400. A 100, 12,400.
Yeah, that's a contractual line, so it's just,
Training, office supply.
Okay, it was just a little low, so I was just making sure that wasn't a salary coming out of there.
No,
no.
Okay,
Trying to think what we did, I feel like we purchased something out of.
we pulled some of 3+1 out. I believe.
Yes, I believe that was it. Last month, I believe we did take a chunk out of that line and put it into the financial management
okay.
line. It was on a resolution last month, I believe.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any questions on any of these guys?
No, that summary you do look like, you know, through the first quarter,
Yeah.
percentages left were good.
Yeah.
Above, you know, 3/4.
Right.
So I'm gonna leap a little bit. I think our conversation on G, the fund balance review, will be much longer than H, the finance related resolutions. So if you guys don't mind, let's do the finance related resolutions first. So we can get that done and then finish up with a nice long conversation on the fund balances. And ARPA. So when Jess and I were going through and creating and coming up with how to do this report, and great job, by the way, Jess, it's pretty freaking perfect for what we need. We found, you know, as we talked about before, there's a few capital projects that are just kind of hanging on there that don't really have anything going on with them. So I think we're gonna have some resolutions coming up to close those out. You want to go over those, Jess? It's
Sure,
just, I think the first one was the County Road 4 capital project.
For sewer project.
Are these under the head capital projects?
They're not listed on this thing because we're gonna close them, so
You put it up on the screen.
it's in here.
I hope. I have to make sure it's saved in the right place. Yeah, because I saved them in the OneDrive, thinking that's where I'd be able to get on and happen, so let me see.
That's identified as active capital projects here?
No, we pull them off of this because we're gonna close them, so they're just kind of dumpy leftover things that we just need to do some housekeeping on, so.
So that wasn't temporary. Part of the.
No, it's there in here and they're in the monthly reports too, like the
So
capital
there are
project.
capital projects that are not listed on the capital project list, the active capital projects, because they're ones that really aren't active or need to be closed anyway, so.
That's why it says active one. So it's the County Road 4 capital project, which was for sewers, figuring out sewers on County Road 4. It's the Gateway Signs capital project. It's the historical survey capital project, which we're done with the survey. I think it's got like $500 in it. The Gateway Signs, I think we've all said we're ready to say bye to. That's a capital project.
We're gonna have a resolution to.
So these are what, I'm bringing them up because these resolutions will be showing up at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And the County Road 4, well, that was when we were trying to determine if they wanted sewer.
Mhm.
So, and they didn't or whatever, right? So that one needs to get killed
Well,
too.
the
So.
PA shut down.
Oh, yeah, that's the VA one. Okay.
And the VA's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
quiet for the last 6 months. They've been completely
Yes.
silent for anything.
So we just thought there'd be a resolution coming up for next month's meeting saying, hey, let's kill off these projects. So
So do we have money left in these projects?
not much.
So in the County Road 4 sewer project, there is a negative balance.
Mhm.
Then let's not close that. Yeah, let's hold off on that one.
Yeah,
Of
it's
7,000, 366.
So how do we get negative in that?
because the only money that was allocated was obviously less than what their
Right.
engineering expenses were.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry.
And then
So in order
the,
to close that particular one, we have to take money out of somewhere else
Correct.
to fund this, right?
So that would be included in the resolution.
We would have to transfer from our we'd have to transfer.
or it
from
could
the
come
side.
from Gateway Signs, which has 30,000 in it. Or can we do
No,
that or
we
no?
don't have 30.
It doesn't have 30 in it? Okay.
we'd have to, any capital project, we can't transfer from a capital project to a capital
can't, okay,
project.
yep.
If you close out a capital project, that money goes back in the general
General, and
fund,
then back in.
and then it could be used to pay off a capital project with debt. But you can't,
Can't go from one, yeah,
you can't slide.
but
it
you know
over.
what I'm saying, I mean, it would, so, and then,
And how much
The-
is left in gateway signs?
Right. Nothing, there's nothing left in there.
We
Does
never-
it say 30,000?
it says 3265.
Because I think we did actually at the,
Is that before we bought the signs?
I think we had a resolution earlier in the year that said to
To
move the
zero it
money
out.
to. Another account.
You still have that one sign to put up that we took down.
Yeah.
So can we close that and not pay for that some other way or?
I mean, highway's putting it up and down, right?
Mhm.
But. We have the sign, right? So we're
Right.
not buying
Pay
anything,
for it,
we're
yeah,
just
they Put it up to.
finding time to put it somewhere. At
Right.
the right
What
place.
sign
It's-
was that? Where is that?
Sign, North Bloomfield Road there.
Yeah, it
Oh.
was, somebody complained it was blocking or
Blocking
something,
it, right.
blocking the ability to look.
Yeah, I looked at it, I never really moved your head around to get blocked, but.
And then there's the one by Janeco's that got run over.
Or somebody there.
Oh, that's what happened?
Yeah. Somebody ran that one over, so that one needs to be replaced. I'm assuming insurance.
So maybe we shouldn't close it then.
I'm assuming insurance will stop it. We'll cover that.
So maybe we shouldn't close
We
that
might
one
want to
then.
leave that one just
Okay.
in case we have any incidental.
I just wanted to
costs,
clean up anything that was,
Pay for that. yeah.
so County Road 4, we can close. Historical survey, we can definitely close, and that had 500 and change in it, you said.
Yeah, and actually, I think I just got an email this morning, maybe. I can't remember if it's part of the same, anyway, yes,
Okay.
there's little funds in there, any remaining funds that would be in there, we just transfer to the general.
So I guess I understand and I heard County Road 4, which I understand, I'm comfortable with. Historical Society or survey, agreed.
Mhm.
Gateway signs. Do we have money in there or don't we?
Let me look.
I think the discussion on the gateway signs was that the fact that there's one left to put up.
Mhm.
And then the one that needs repair.
And I understand that, just I'd like to know whether we have money in there or not.
I'm sorry, this.
Want us to come back to that? While you look for
It
it?
has to do with the connectivity that we have down here as well as the server issues that we have. It's really difficult to find information.
Back to this one. Let her work on that and we'll circle backward to it.
Well, I think we're gonna keep it open for now anyway, so we can probably talk about it on the 22nd even, you know,
Yeah,
as long as we
I
know.
mean, if you can
so.
find out, I'd still like to understand if we have money in there or not.
Gotcha.
And then you said just we need to increase the attorney line will be showing up for April 22nd.
Yeah, we've had significant increase in attorney costs this year. We've already surpassed our budgeted amount in that line. So,
Through March.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, is any of that, I think some of that is gonna come back as chargebacks from German Brothers, correct, or we
No.
don't know, okay.
I actually printed those bills out, so I could take a look at it. Get them right here in front of me. A significant amount of them have to do with the fact that I think that we're reaching out to the attorney's office more, in relation to the lack of a town manager and the hiring of a town manager. There's also, incentive zoning things that have, and in some cases, that is something we can charge back, and in some cases not. Sarah's been reviewing the bills to make sure, you know, if it's questions that we have, you know, then it's hard to charge back to the person's project, you know, for our clarification purposes. So that's another big hit as well. Looks like there was some, questions about just different,
Just general
just
question.
general questions really between our development office. And the town as a whole regarding different projects, but maybe not. Like I said, there are questions,
And
not
there's
a
also
responsibility.
There's also short-term
Sure,
rentals too.
yeah,
So what have we spent so far?
$11,000 and we budgeted 9.
So the Cause I know in years past, looking at the budget, that budget had been, at one point, you might remember, I don't know if you remember, it was like 60. And then it
Yeah.
was down to 30. And then it was cut down to 15. And then this last year it was cut down, I don't know, it was cut down to 9 this year. And I know there was some concern. Chris had some concern that there were some things that were passed and went through that he didn't have review on. So I think that's a line item that's gonna have to be increased. 9 is not, it's not practical. Cause you need that legal, whoever we bring in isn't gonna be an attorney. And we need to have that attorney eye on things as well. Because if you go through and if you have, somebody's asking us things. Like short-term rentals, and our attorney says, well, I didn't review it.
Mhm.
It wasn't presented to me to review
Yeah.
because I was told it was fine, which happened. Then that's an issue. So this number is gonna have to go up, but it's probably not gonna go up to that same. It won't be used as much, but the number is still gonna have to go up higher than that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's all.
That's super low.
Okay, so that'll be showing up in April 22nd as a resolution, increasing that somewhere?
I.
Obviously
mean, we're
higher than
only
that.
in- And it. I was thinking we probably should. Allocate like at least another $20,000.
For January, February, March.
And we
Yeah.
just got a bill
For
for
the quarter,
$5,000
yeah.
more, you know, so.
So is that in the 11,000? That 5,000?
No, I think, no, so we're actually at
we spent-
16 right
We're
now.
at 16 now,
Technically.
through the first quarter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So even bringing, I mean,
What's the annual? The total for the year, that budget line, budgeted for him,
What the budgeted amount was for, it was 9,000.
for the year.
Which is really low.
yeah, we
Yeah.
can't, I mean, that's not.
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's
Yeah.
gotta be a mistake.
Yes, it's like a zero's missing.
I mean,
Uh,
because it's super low.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking right now, so.
I wanna say 15, between 15
So
and.
last year, it was 29. The year before was actually only 12 in 2022.
The budget. Or is
That's
that
what we
Spent,
spent.
spent,
spent?
right.
Okay. What were the budgeted numbers, so you have that?
So, and let's see, how far back do you want me to go?
Oh, just after
The
the
beginning,
So 2022, we budgeted 21,700. And we spent 12,500. So we had 9,000. 2023, we budgeted 4,700.
Oh.
And we spent 29,000.
29.
wait,
We
Okay,
budgeted 4,700,
Mhm.
we spent 20.
why would
Yeah,
we have
so we-
budgeted 4,700 when we spent 12,000 the year before? That doesn't make any sense.
that does not.
I don't know.
That's weird.
Well, it didn't make any sense either because we spent 29,000,
No,
right?
it's
Right.
kinda,
Well, we also had the First Amendment thing last year.
Yeah,
that-
yeah, yeah.
that-
That's
that
true, yeah, yeah.
Increased attorney costs quite,
God.
quite.
It's still only, but
I don't know if we should
Yeah, but-
drop that below what we spent the year.
No,
before.
ever. It
That's
should never be
so
below what
yeah.
we spent the year before.
The amount we budgeted. That concerns me, I mean,
Yeah, and honestly, it
Yeah,
looks like we
mhm.
didn't even incur. Most of our expenses happened from August to December last year.
Yeah, budget season really, so it's, yeah.
so it wasn't all the First Amendment stuff. We said it was,
Wasn't
I
that?
mean, that was over pretty.
Yeah, that
much
was over by
August.
now.
Oh. Well, I don't
so
believe it.
All right, so,
Well-
can we get, anybody feel comfortable tossing a number out there? I feel like it should be about 40 grand at least, so.
Sounds good to me.
Well, we've spent 16 in
Yeah.
the first quarter.
Yep.
So, yeah. I would say maybe at least that realistically.
Well, do you just deal with it month by month and make,
I think we deal with it quarterly and make budget adjustments because we might notice a change.
Right.
A decrease.
A decrease in the third and fourth quarters.
you don't know what's coming.
We might see a decrease in the third and fourth quarter, so I would propose. Just doing that,
Should we,
doing another even saying doing another 16 and
Just
then,
put in what we've already spent, our
Right.
actual spend is double it,
yeah,
32.
yeah, don't take it up to,
We'll look at it again in, July.
Yeah.
So bring it to 32.
bring it to 32,000.
Okay.
Where did that come from?
General
Just
fund
pay
unassigned.
9,000. Just kidding.
Electricity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
You guys have gone to a penny a kilowatt.
We're gonna move money from the electric account too. It's an electrical, he's an electrical attorney now.
That's a good question. Right now, it's kind of difficult to take from other contractual lines or just
Mhm.
because you're so early in the year, you hate to
Well,
take from.
I was
somewhere.
gonna
We have a
ask,
contingency
I was gonna
line.
ask the question. What difference does it make whether we modify the budget or not?
Well,
At some point in the year, let's call it the 3/4 point where we start to revise. Or look at our budget for 2025. We're gonna know whether we have excess money in some of the budget line items, or we have. Not enough money in some of the budget line
Right.
items, so at the end of the day, it's all coming out of the same pot.
yes,
I don't
but
know.
if. like,
It's
you know,
illegal
through the
for Jess.
Training and
Yeah.
things, they tell you, you shouldn't run your account lines negative. It's kind of.
It's illegal for Jess and she's personally responsible if she overspends a budget line. So if she pays that attorney $5,000 right now, we can sue her tomorrow to personally give us $5,000 because she overspent a budget line.
Well, that's an option.
Well, according to the comptroller's office.
Yes, you're not
According to
supposed
New
to run
York State
accounts
law.
negative, yeah.
So if somebody were to come back, and watch this. And look at that and then go back through and look at the budget lines, because we've had them before and say, why is it negative?
Yeah.
They can come back and look and say, why is the attorney line, it's been negative for the last 4 months and you didn't do anything about it. Why aren't you bringing that back up to 0? What's going on that you're overspending it? Are you hiding something?
Mhm.
Are you trying to cover something? So
So you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul,
It's the
which is
same-
not really allowed.
it's the same fund.
Okay.
And you're totally right. It's the same
Mhm.
pot.
It
Yeah.
is, it is.
But because of New York State law and because of the way the budget situation is,
And to be
That
honest,
answered
it's
my
more
question.
work to do it like month by month.
Yeah.
It's easier to put a chunk in there, and then I don't have to worry about it for a few months, you
Yep.
know?
so.
So those are the answers.
Okay. So any other financial resolutions we anticipate in the 22nd at all? Beyond the norm that we usually have, so. Okay, so let's move on to bigger conversation here. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to mention to Jess though, before I leave though, I'm gonna ask the question of. how
I'm
much-
looking at it
Okay.
right now. There is something in there now. I feel like there was a resolution that we just had not that long ago. And Sarah would have a better handle on that.
That's okay, we'll come back.
It
to
was $30,000 that was transferred to that capital project the end of last year, because I think there are some signs that we wanted to purchase, so I'll have to see with her where we are in this process.
So, and I don't mean to get us off track here, but
No,
if there is $30,000 in there.
Yeah.
We could transfer that $30,000 to the general fund, and then we could go and transfer money out of the general fund to support the attorney increase.
all right, so the gateway, maybe that's on hold. Let me do a little bit more research
Yeah.
on that and see what we need. to
Yeah, so I think at this
Thank you.
point, we'll just be pulling out the County Road 4 and the historical survey one for now, so. Okay, does everybody have this? I printed some extra copies there if everybody doesn't have it, so
That's the
You got
fund
this one,
balances.
Yeah.
this thing right here.
Yeah, the fund balance.
Yeah, this
Yep.
one. It's everybody's got that. Okay. All right, so. Thank you, Jess, for putting this together. I tried, this is not a comprehensive document. This is Jess and I going through and saying, okay, what do we really actually need to know? And what are the things we actually have to move around, right? So you'll notice in this, for example, she put this together, which I'm very thankful for. So she's done things like combining the lighting districts. She combined the water districts, and she combined the drainage districts, because we're not really talking about those, and there's 25 million of them, and they just create a little bit of clutter on the report, so to speak. So this has got the revenues, the fund balance revenues. We've got, then she's talking about the general fund unassigned on the next page and what the highway has unassigned. And then these later pages, you'll see we're talking about the reserve funds and the capital project funds, and then ARPA at the end there. So all kind of different things, but all pots where we can pay from. So
Document do you have there?
this was attached to the this was attached to the agenda for today.
I see this one, but I didn't see those other ones you're talking about. Okay,
Now
good.
you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
This is,
Thank you. Not in the package I had in my mail, but that's okay. I got it. We're good.
okay, so, so everybody knows basically our pots to work fund, our fund balances, the unassigned fund balances, the reserve fund balances, and the capital project. So is what we're talking about, what we have. The big question, which you kind of answered last year, if you remember when we moved some money from the general fund unassigned into the contingent tax reserve, the highway fund, and the capital project for the highway fund and the capital project for the complete streets. Remember, we moved like 1.5 million into those last year. That was because we had an excess balance on the second page here in the unassigned fund balance, which we are lucky enough to have again. So as Jess, thank you, Jess, very carefully added up together, and she put our policy in here. We are currently exceeding what our policy says we should have in the unassigned fund balance by, let's call it $3 million. So we need to move around $3 million somewhere. So that's what that says right on the top there under unassigned fund balance.
Move 3 million, wait a minute. Fund balance policy says we should have a range of 2.9 to 3.7.
No, she's saying that's what needs to move. Correct, Jess?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to be allocated to comply with the fund balance. So we are.
Which
we are
would leave
excess
the-
fund
Fund
balance.
balance of 4.465 million.
Yeah, so, and it should, if we took
Oh,
3 million out, that'd be 1.465.
771 to 1.5.
Right,
Yeah, so if we took 3 million out, that'd be at 1.4 and change, which gets us under that 1.5.
That's good news.
Yep,
But that unassigned fund balance is what we would tap
yes,
for next year to balance the budget.
Right.
And that's why we have it.
that is
That's why
correct.
we keep
Right.
the money in there.
so either our policy needs to be adjusted. Well, I think we need to adjust it anyway. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that high anyway, but either we need to adjust our policy up to more than 30%, or we need to move about $3 million somewhere. So sorry, guys.
What should we take for this year?
We did about 15. Oh, you mean in the, in the ballot, I think it was like 500,000?
I wanna say, yeah.
It's right around 500,000.
500 and 600,000.
We weren't super aggressive with that.
No, we weren't, but I remember, didn't Doug have some projections that said that was gonna go up?
That we were gonna continue to need that going up.
Yeah. I feel like you had some projections
Yeah,
that said that
that's
before.
I mean, the out years always show a greater
Yeah.
need,
mhm.
but when you get down to them, it always adjusts itself. So I don't know.
Just never.
We need to be careful.
Exactly.
Gotta be conservative.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not meaning that you have to spend it, it just means you have to put it.
Put it somewhere,
You can
exactly.
Put it in a reserve, you can put it in your tax.
Contingent tax
Well,
reserve.
we put 500 or 600 last year into
Right.
this, and we're 4.5. That money we moved last year, or the year before for last year is part of that
I
fund
mean,
balance.
we've been, right, but
So,
it's back as far as I can see, we've always projected our revenues lower.
Lower than they are.
Anticipated, so.
There's
we're
always
lucky
this
that
adjustment.
Every year
Yeah.
we've exceeded what, we've always had a fund balance remaining at the end of the year to
Mhm.
that, so.
yeah, in a certain sense, we didn't really need to put that fund balance in because we've exceeded it on the revenue side.
Yeah, it's the contingency fund essentially is what it is, but
Which is a good problem to have.
It is,
Yeah.
Might
Yeah.
need that money for the attorney.
right, right.
I hope not.
Let Chris know.
At any rate, so. We can discuss how much we want to move somewhere else and where, but I think. I think we need to have a larger discussion about, where it's needed, what our appetite is and. And, where we want to put it. So that's what we have with the. Where we're talking about some of the other funds here, that we have balances in that are already open. The capital projects. It might be easier to look at places where we don't necessarily need to put funds, like, for example. I don't think we need to add anything to the open space reserve right now, because that's only for open space and for conservation. And we haven't used that, at least since I've been on the board, at least not much of it anyway, so. So I feel like that one is not a place we need to put money. We might need more in bonded indebtedness if we're planning to take out some bonds. The campus repair is definitely a place that we could think about putting some money. Because we've obviously have some upcoming campus repairs and they're not going to end after we do some changes too. The highway, I know we funded that last year with $1 million. I'm sure we'd be interested in putting more in there again. Solid waste management, I think at this point, we just want to kind of hang out where it is. I don't know if we want to toss anything else in there, but. The technology reserve, we basically bottomed out, right, with the putting everything on the cloud.
Cloud will, we haven't done it yet, but it will use the chunk of that, yes.
So that might be a place that we want to put some money again.
Can we go back to the solid waste management reserve, please, for a
Mhm,
second?
yep.
Just talk about it. Do we need to have all that money in there?
Well, we have to either, it's in there, so we have to spend it on that. Or
You
leave
can't-
it.
Can't move it out.
Anything else,
Once it's in there, it's locked
Mhm.
in.
yeah.
That's how
why
reserve funds
Any
are.
reserve we create in the future should be labeled, miscellaneous or something, yeah, so that there's that.
The contingent
Alright,
tax.
so they're
reserve,
locked,
so that's-
not locked in.
Yeah.
So we should learn from our previous.
Yeah,
That's your
ways.
best.
but
bet.
that, I think with that, we'll be spending it, we'll have enough to spend it.
Down the road we will.
Yeah, but it's just gonna sit there and,
All depends on it.
We'll spend that
Yeah.
more.
Well,
The question of when.
yeah, and then, and.
Right, right. We
You
don't
can't,
know.
you can't touch it anyway,
Right.
so.
it is a great place though to put things like the building repairs and things like that, because we're always gonna have. Repairs to equipment, we're gonna have repairs to the buildings, we're gonna, I think it's a good practice to put a certain amount, like, for example, the fire station. Honestly, I'm surprised we don't have like a fire station reserve fund that we have for that we are putting 12,000 a year in or something like that, like we talked about with the roof, but.
Again, I wouldn't create something that says fire station reserve, because
In case we don't.
if it's in there,
You can't move.
something changes, we don't need to use it, it's stuck.
Right. We
I
should learn from our
can
previous
label
mistakes.
miscellaneous or ABC, whatever,
Right.
whatever is legal with the,
Right.
the controller's office.
What is legal to put like a slush fund, for lack of a better.
Yeah.
lack of a better-
Contingent tax reserve, that's what that is.
Right, contingent tax reserve.
So reserves
That's a
approved,
lot, yeah.
Reserves
That's in the book. You
like
can-
I brought the book, this lives in our office.
Cause I delved into
The-
it a little bit and I was like,
Yeah,
oh geez.
The reserves that are approved is a capital reserve fund, a repair reserve fund, a contingency fund, that's a contingent tax fund, snow and ice removal, reserve fund for bonded indebtedness, airport amortization fund, airport development fund, workers' comp reserve fund, utility depreciation reserve fund, mandatory reserve fund, unemployment insurance reserve fund, insurance reserve fund, solid waste management facility reserve, employee benefit accrued liability reserve, and retirement contribution reserve fund. So that's what is the general municipal law, and then there are other ones, you can have property loss reserve, school district reserve, tax reduction reserve, career education reserve, general fund, reserve fund for suburban towns, and reserve fund for improvements, reserve fund for judgments and claims. So that's what we can have in the law, so.
Very careful setting up reserves. and
Yep.
it Goes into, you can transfer money in capital. To a capital project, or have a general heading or something. And
Yep.
leave it there for,
Right,
so that anything that happens, we can call that a
sure.
proper use of the money, so that. We have that discretion rather than.
That's why I don't want any more in open space, because until we purchase, I mean, I think we can use that for some of Kevin Olvani's projects. But until and we should use that for some of Kevin Alvani's project, but until we do that, it's $1 million. It's our biggest reserve fund, just sitting there hanging out, doing nothing, so.
That and. You got almost $1 million. sitting
Yeah.
there that you Can't really touch.
Exactly.
And the nice thing with capital projects is, I mean, they roll over year to year to year.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anything that Jim could do. Could use that money for with what we have out here now.
Well, so she's got the
Any
description there.
improvement That could be,
The open space or the.
no,
solid
no,
waste?
the solid waste management.
So
Or That
Je-
would be a legitimate, I don't, he hasn't said that.
I was gonna say, Jess went through and looked at the resolutions for all of these and put in what we said they were for, so,
The
I
solid
mean-
waste management is actually a comptroller's defined.
yeah.
Reserve, so that's the description.
But it does say including operation and
Yeah.
maintenance of solid waste management facilities.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to go into that and needed, you know,
Like a new
something
contract
fixed
or
over
something.
there, he
Yeah.
could go into that as well, so.
I don't know that, I mean, he bought, he had a new contractor a couple of years ago,
We
and
did.
we paid for that,
We paid for that,
yeah.
where we should have done it from this.
Yep, and the thing with
Well,
the
yeah.
reserve funds is we need to do the public hearing on, so that's why.
But it was, at that time, it was. We're gonna do this project, we're
Mhm.
gonna build, I think it was before we got the $5 million estimate.
Right.
So we said, that's not budgeted. So,
Well, but this,
I don't, anyway.
we should probably mention it though strongly to Jim though, because I mean, that's because you do need the public hearing on it. It's not something you can do for this broke, I need to fix it right away kind of thing. So,
And it's actually
if-
done.
oh,
But you can't.
good. So if
Yeah.
there's something that we know coming up, we
You can
could,
make a decision.
pull it out of there.
fix it, And then go through the process.
Exactly. so it's something to keep in mind, so.
Mhm.
So I don't think we're gonna add anything to solid waste, we're not gonna add anything to open space, campus repair reserve, I still think that that's not necessarily a bad place to put some money because. We have, what, about 500,000 already we have planned for this
We're
building,
planning, the plan, the last thing I saw is 500.
Yeah.
And that would be the minimum for the town hall renovations, and that was one of the top ones that we had on the list that we had talked about. So,
so that could be a nice place to put some. a
so
chunk of funds.
we have 250, we have 221 in campus repair, plus we have the other funds, we have about a quarter in there, so if we were able to add another 250 in the campus repair reserve, then between that and the other smaller reserve fund, that would put us at 500.
Do we need more in the technology reserve fund, are we having, any, I mean, should we have a little bit in there?
Well, we're always gonna need,
Cause it's basically zeroed out
well,
now.
because we're gonna need to improve,
Mm-hmm,
we're gonna need to improve our security, in-house security, we're gonna need to improve our training. There's gonna come to the point where every one of us and everybody who works here is gonna have to, we're gonna have to have training sessions, we're gonna have to have training, some sort of training protocols, so you get videos or training on how to deal with phishing, on how to deal with cyber attacks, all sorts of things directed towards public officials and public employees. So I'm trying to get us into a grant program with that, with a regional buy-in with that. But those are other things that we're gonna have so that's gonna be a cost
yeah,
that we don't necessarily have, we don't have budgeted for right now, because we don't know what it's gonna be, but eventually that's gonna be a mandate. And I don't think that there's, other than this grant money that they're gonna throw out if you're lucky enough to get it, there probably isn't gonna be any other funding for that mandate.
so is the place to help fund that from a technology reserve or from a capital project or just from the general fund unassigned?
I mean, I
Or
like Jess's
make a
idea.
budget item on it, but,
I like Jess's idea of not pigeonholing everything
Yep.
into a specific reserve fund. And we have a contingent, use the contingent tax reserve,
yep,
because that allows us to use that for anything to keep the tax rate low. And then we have the capital projects. We create a technology training capital project or a technology improvement capital project that we can fund from that. That would be my suggestion.
when we spend from the contingent tax reserve though, isn't that, we pull from that when we do the budget for the next year, right? Is that correct? Or no?
We don't have to.
Cause I think that the whole point of that is to keep the tax rate low.
I'd have to like see.
So I feel like that is only helping us at
But I-
budget time.
Yeah, that could be.
To finance certain unanticipated revenue losses or unanticipated expenditures chargeable to the eligible portion of the annual budget. So anything that's chargeable to the entire town would be in my,
I'm sure there's like 14 pages of.
probably.
Well, I'm looking at, that's why I bought my little,
Goes on this.
And that
You're
would
right.
come under contingent tax reserve. In my,
I mean, and I read in some of those reserves, if you spend it, for an emergent purpose, you have to repay half of it by the next budget year or something. So there's definitely,
I think it's a little,
definition.
you guys can read this later, but I think it's a little tighter than we think it is. I think it's
And I mean.
the maximum that may be used to lessen or prevent a projected increase in excess of 2.5% of the property tax levy needed to finance eligible portion of the annual budget shall equal the difference between the projected amount of the real property tax and the amount of the levy needed to finance the eligible portion for the current fiscal year. I think this is supposed to be during the budgeting
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, that sounds- yeah.
You use it, if you make a budget that's 40%, then you could tax it. Eventually,
You could,
put some items in the budget and
Yeah.
then use this.
But you're right, during budget season.
yeah, I don't think this works like a little slush fund. I think it works like a fix your budget with this
So
fund.
then we should probably look at putting another 25, and we should keep the technology reserve fund. It's gonna go down to probably 5 or 10.
Effectively zero in that out.
Yeah, so.
We could do a capital project in front, if you wanted it, there could be a technology capital project.
Then I would be more comfortable with that, because that can stay open forever.
Yeah.
And we're not locked in, and we don't have to do a public hearing to spend money. I'd be more comfortable with technology capital.
I mean, pretty much create any kind of capital project we want, right? It just has to have the well-tracked expenses.
So with that being effectively zeroed out, in other words, you just not put anything back into it,
We
Yeah.
could
capital project.
we could close that. Budget reserve fund and spend it this year.
Yeah, that was one question I did have, because it's defined in the comptroller's manual. Is it a required reserve?
I don't
Or is it
think
just
so.
like, these are ones that we.
No, I don't think that one's one of the required ones. That's
Okay.
why it's
I remember when we created it.
authorized. So,
We didn't have
Some of
one.
these were like.
We had some excess funds. and we
Nice.
used their check. So we just created. it,
Sorry.
Mhm.
Funded it with the next ball amount.
Yeah.
interestingly, I don't even see a technology reserve fund under the authorized reserve
I thought it
funds.
was in there, really?
It might be, I don't,
It's,
I'm not seeing it in
section
here.
6C.
I'm not seeing it in this part, the table of contents part. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but. And this is for 22 anyway, so. could be wrong. I don't think it's one of the required funds anyway.
It's not like it's I mean, even if you left it with $5,000, whatever, that's what it is.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what goes into closing a reserve fund.
oh, it's part of a capital reserve fund. That's 6C, yeah. So you can have capital improvements with specific or reserve funds designed towards various capital improvements, so. So that's what it is. But I don't think it's one of the required ones. We'll have to figure that out. Anyway, moving on from the tech fund, so. I don't think we necessarily have a appetite to increase much on any of these funds, the reserve funds, other than potentially highway. Because we will always be spending highway improvement and highway equipment reserve funds. Which is the DA 230 and DA 232 down there.
Yeah, I didn't find like. Explanation.
A good
of it. I
description of
thought,
that.
Like, they probably were pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
Some of these were created in the 90s and I don't have, like.
Yeah.
I couldn't find records back that far. To find the information that it came from.
but like, so when we were talking about like the culvert, that's one of the ones that the DA 232, that 360. That's one of the ones that I was saying,
It's a reserve fund.
this reserve fund thing.
That's fine. They haven't gone back.
They're moving furniture out there. They are,
We just,
they are.
the
That's how it
exterminators, they're due to come out tomorrow.
Crystalline's laughing, I think
I'm
she.
like, a big one.
We got a big one. Somebody didn't pay their taxes.
Anyway, so yeah, on this, see down here, where it says highway equipment down here, she doesn't have a description on it because I don't, that's what she's just explaining. They might be ancient reserve funds, so that we always use. So that's the one, I believe it was DA 232, that's where we added the million last year.
No.
That's
that went
not,
into
okay,
capital
that was in the
project.
capital project, okay. Oh, so that was in H39 last year, okay, got it. So, I don't know, that's another place that we wanted to, we could put some of the excess funds. But we might do better putting them on the next page here, which is the active capital projects one. So there's a couple things in here. Last year we funded the highway roadway with $1 million. And complete streets, did we do 500,000, I believe, for complete streets last year?
Complete streets. So what happened was, is we did complete streets and highway. I think it was 500,000.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we had some
and
charges.
highway was 1 million. The reason why the numbers show differently under where it says allocated is
Yeah.
because then we moved some of that money to the North Road complete street. So
North
we
Road
took
Complete,
money out
yeah.
of both those projects and moved it to project 43. So
I have to ask a dumb question.
go for it. There's no
There are
numbers.
some dumb questions.
What's the difference between highway improvement reserve and highway road improvements?
So one is a reserve fund and one is a capital project.
So in essence,
So-
there really is no difference.
How you
Just the way
spend
you're
them.
allowed to spend it.
So the reserve funds,
We're better off putting all of the money in the capital projects and not in this reserve fund.
Correct.
So spend out of the reserve fund first
Mhm.
and then backfill the balance on the highway road improvements at some point.
Correct.
I mean, the difference is when you do a reserve fund, you have to have a public hearing on spending from the reserve
I
fund.
understand.
When you
That's
do in
your-
the capital project, you have to allocate, you have to clearly state where you spent all of the funds, so.
The idea behind the reserve funds is always to have a buffer in
Mhm.
case you ran over in a given year, something happens that was unforeseen and not budgeted for. You have a little pad there you could draw on, but
And a reserve,
kind of a philosophical question, I guess. Do you put your money in reserves or do you put it into capital? Create capital projects for everything and just abandon well, over time abandon spend these down and then you don't populate them again.
Well, I think there's some places where we probably want to
Well,
maintain the
you do.
reserve funds, but
You can't project exactly what's gonna
Right.
happen, you know, in the
Right.
next year.
I think.
so such as the open space reserve, I think that, you
In
know,
the tax reserve.
and the tax
Yeah.
reserve, but I think in the future, like I said just a moment ago, we ought to spend down this highway improvement reserve and fund the highway road improvements.
Mhm.
So here's a thought. Reserve funds are meant for unforeseen
Yeah,
expenses.
yeah.
Capital projects are meant for
Planned
planned.
expenses.
However,
So. when
And
you
I
create a
understand
capital
that.
Project, you're really supposed to have like.
For a
an
specific
actual
project,
planned,
yeah.
A specific expense. We made the highway improvement broad, but we still had to provide specific information as to what projects.
But
were
we
gonna
got-
complete.
we have more than enough projects
Oh,
to
for sure.
justify
We
our
absolutely do.
capital reserve or capital project fund.
Right,
But the controller's office. If we kept carrying large amounts in these projects,
correct.
and for whatever reason, lack manpower or weather or something, not able to spend them. The time during audits and things, where
Correct.
they say,
And
Yeah.
absolutely.
They won't be
That's
happy with
why I
that.
say-
you gotta be,
The capital projects are meant, you have to have a plan.
There's for
Because
specifics.
you're right, otherwise they're gonna say,
yeah,
why are you squirreling money?
But-
This should be, you know, in
you
reserve.
could put money into the reserves every year.
Mhm.
With a plan to spend them down.
Right.
Correct.
So that you don't,
Yeah.
and then you have, I think you gotta have a pad someplace, just in case something
Sure.
And we know we can always spend it highway. I mean, if it's reserved or not, there'll be some way that we can get that out of there without any question.
Yeah, I mean, you can put it in the reserve fund and then in your mind, so if we look back at our capital improvement plan, our equipment, replacement plan, we can say, okay. We're gonna put money in the equipment reserve this year because we know next year we want to buy 2 new
Mhm,
or
yep.
plow trucks at $500,000. So when it comes for the budget time, then you know, well, we plan on using this reserve fund to pay for those.
If I may, I have another dumb question to ask. Why did we differentiate between highway improvements and complete streets?
Highway improvements was meant literally for the roadways.
Mhm.
And the complete streets, I think, was to encompass more. the
Multimodal
Multimodal
transportation.
transportation,
So,
sidewalks.
Sidewalk.
To me, it's all improvements,
I
so
know.
why differentiate?
I think there was some
Just makes it
discussion.
more difficult.
I think there's the discussion about, and I remember it, about the amount of cost between improving a road and turning a road into a complete street. The significance and the cost difference and trying to put all that on the highway improvement budget. The request was to make the other line. You're right, it is really the same thing,
Right.
but I think feels, you know, that it's again, that philosophical thing, it's the same money, but it's not all highway because it's coming out of complete streets. If that make,
Well, and-
you know what I'm getting at? That was.
I
the
understand what
theory.
you're saying, I just don't,
That was the
the
theory
complete
behind it.
streets money is to be used for things like sidewalks and
Yeah.
multimodal trails. The highway fund money could be used for gutters, could be used for repaving the roads, things like that.
So aren't there also grants for complete streets that there won't be grants for highway?
Although there's tons of grants for highway, so there's tons of grants for all the above, so, but. There's actually probably more grants for highway than there are for sidewalks. So,
Forget about those culverts.
yeah, there's CHIPS funding and
Right.
SAM funding, there's all sorts of funding.
Yeah, the capital project, I mean, it's nice to have a place to put the funds. Knowing that, you're gonna complete these projects and they take several years, but if you look at some of the other. Capital projects, they're very specific, like a capital project
Yep.
is like, I'm going to build a house. And I'm putting this much money in there to build this house, whereas the highway improvements and capital streets are a lot obviously more vague and it's. I mean, it's a good way to plan and work towards completing a project, but there's not quite as much definition with those.
It would be better if instead of highway road improvements, it was repair to XYZ street. It was road improvements on, where's our list of 25 million things we need to spend money on, it would be.
Right,
If it was, Monk's Road culvert, if it was Smith Road culvert, if it was,
and I think, and. the
new
initial
port
part
facility,
was- I think we looked at it, was Purdy Road.
Yerkes
Central
Road.
Seneca Point Road, culvert.
Yeah.
And something else, Road 20.
So if we wanted, honestly, though, if we wanted to add to the highway road improvements, it might make sense to do something like, the Grandview Park Gorham Road Infrastructure Improvement Capital Project, something like, whatever. I'm just picking a project, so.
Specific, because I don't think there's been a year that's gone by that Jim hasn't changed his 281.
Yeah, exactly.
So to pin it down too precisely. And then not be able to transfer from one capital project to another, perhaps, you're locking yourself, trying to, almost like you're locking yourself in.
Can I,
Keep it broad.
can I propose that? For time, this is my thing to ask my stupid question. Can we kind of see if we can, we've got about 1.5, we said, that we're trying to, that we have to allocate. anywhere
3
between-
million. If we want to follow our policy, we got 3 million, we should be moving. If we can change our policy, but if we're following our policy of 15 to 30% on
We have
page 2 here,
4936, right?
Yeah. it's just put the number on the bottom there that should be moved according to our policy, which is 2.9 to 3.6. So I'm calling it 3 million,
So then.
which would leave, if we took 3 million out, that would leave us with 1.465 unassigned. If,
let's
so
look
we,
at-
I mean, first we need to establish, are we comfortable with it that low? Are we comfortable following our own policy? Do we want to adjust our policy?
Well,
or
let's see where
what,
we need
so.
to be, and let's see what we have to fund. Because I think we need to come up with some of that discussion and fund, because we have the list, and I know we have some
Big
key
ticket items.
Big ticket items to fund.
Yep.
So I propose to start whittling away at that. And
Well, and then in addition to that, we have, which is the last page of our sheet, we've got the ARPA, we've got 888,000 in ARPA that has to get figured out.
I have a question about the eligible cost time frame,
Excuse me.
and it is that it says that the SLFRF funds can cover eligible costs that your organization incurred during the period that begins March 3rd, 2020, and December 31st this year. As long as the award funds for the obligation incurred are expended by, end of 2026, so eligible costs that your organization incurred,
Yeah,
that word
I
incurred.
literally cut and pasted this, but, I found that a little confusing myself. Everywhere I looked, it was worded a little bit different. My understanding is that it means that those funds need to be obligated by the end of 24. In other words, you need to know where you're going to spend the money. Not necessarily that you have, it doesn't make, the verbiage that they used in that blurb didn't make a lot of sense to me, because it says to cover costs incurred. Well, if you can spend it until 2016 or 2026.
Yeah, but
So it says it, and everywhere, like I said, it was worded a little different, but the consensus is that he has to be obligated by 2024, and there's a really long definition about what obligated is and whatever, so. I don't believe it, that the word costs incurred by then is necessarily the best way. It's just.
well, I know that Doug had to periodically report to the
We do,
feds,
yeah. Mhm.
some rules in the federal government,
Yeah.
and
This is
where we
treasurer's office.
intended to spend the money.
Yeah.
But, and we had sent tour County Road 28 and, Parks area,
Mhm.
so. I mean, to me, we've identified
Correct,
areas where, and they are apparently eligible, both of them,
they are,
so.
but we haven't really. I haven't looked at the reporting yet, it's been extended, but when we set up the budget for ARPA. Those costs aren't all, we still have $800,000 that we have not technically identified for expenses, and I feel like that's what they're looking for.
Well, you didn't identify specific numbers of
Specific.
dollars in the project.
Correct,
Or
For the
not
project.
project, but an area. of-
correct, an area, yeah, a subcategory, right, yeah. So
So,
I feel like by the end of 24, we need to be able to say, we're spending X number of dollars on this, like that budget.
Should allocate 887.
Yes.
Should be all spoken for.
Correct, and right now it's not.
Right.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure we don't do something that all of a sudden they come back to.
Yeah,
Who, is there an ultimate authority that question can be asked?
I mean, our auditors, I think because. Our auditors can definitely review that for us, to make sure that we're complying with that. And honestly, by your reporting, that's where the comptroller's office is going to see that you're following all the rules, that they.
The Association of Towns too. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
if
the
you can always get
Association of
advice from them. They've,
Oh, you can put a dollar figure on it, sure. I mean, that's,
Mhm,
but just that word incurred and then
mhm.
you're
Yeah.
dealing with the federal government. I mean, it's.
Incurred, I mean, you can take that as incurred, meaning that you have
The future incurred.
promised, like we have a contract that says we're gonna pay this person $50,000 to pour a sidewalk or something, you know what I mean? Like, we have physical plans for them.
Mhm.
We can easily make those physical plans. We just gotta make sure we
Correct.
spend it by 26. That's
Correct.
the number, the date that worries me the most.
That it's a cost that your organization incurred.
Mhm.
we're not asking you to spend this money on anything that we spend money on. I mean, the whole thing, they spend both.
Sure.
The cost is done like, on your personnel, A and all those areas for eligible too. I just.
Yeah.
I think most people in this room think the feds are spending too much money.
Yeah,
What are we talking about doing?
Because we don't, let's just.
Well, if they give it to us, we should spend
It's
it.
kind of getting to the point where if,
Okay, Biden.
I mean, it's either completely wasted, let it go back to somebody else who'll spend it worse than we do, or.
No, I think it goes
But-
back and that, a lot of the COVID money has been spent.
Yeah.
That I've read. It's just. It's not like there's a safe with money and it's taking it out and in and out.
Exactly.
They just print more
it's a
to,
printing press, it's
Yep.
not a safe.
Yeah.
you might have to lay off their shift.
So far we spent 72,000 on engineering at Ononda and 69,000 on engineering for County Road 28, and then 115,000 on more engineering for County Road 28. And 27,000 for engineering for Seneca Point Road. That's what we've spent out of ARPA so far. So. I do not want to spend another dime on something that is a question if we do it or not, so I don't want any more like. I want it to be on something that we're just, I want us to be able to show something that we spent that money on, so.
Yeah, it does hurt when you look at County Road 28, a lot of money is spent for nothing. I mean, we had to do it, I'm not arguing with that.
No, it just sucks, so.
No, couldn't get to that point.
Just, we needed
Letting
more
people
votes.
know where we're gonna go.
We-
Without spending, you know, kind of.
Right, I get it, it's just painful to see it in black and white.
Yeah, but we've got it on the shelf just in case.
Yeah,
That's come back someday, we know what we have to do, so.
It's pre-designed. It's shovel ready. Okay, so I guess I'll start the conversation on ARPA then. I mean, from my perspective, and I know some people in this room agree with me and some people disagree with me.
Okay,
From my perspective, a lot of our other things, we have to borrow money for some of these projects. ARPA was free money that got tossed at us, quote unquote, by the federal government. I know there's no such thing as free money. It all comes from us. But it's money that was unbudgeted, unexpected, and just kind of appeared. I personally would like to see that spent on something that affects the entire town, which for me is parks, Ononda, Uplands specifically. Because if we have to come back to our town and say, hi, we need to borrow some money, I would rather see us telling our people that we're borrowing money to fix our water mains or fix a road area, as opposed to borrowing money to fix up Ononda Park with money that was didn't even come originally from our town. So I would prefer to see it going towards the Ononda Uplands, which we know we can spend in the next year and a half, and get that road in and get that road going. That's what I would, and it's something we had discussed before, if County Road 28 didn't go through as a possibility, so.
And, unfortunately, Jim had to pop off, because he's at a training thing today, but, Lindsay, myself, and Jim met last week again, regarding the capital project list, and that's kind of even what his thought was, is that there's a lot of projects that he can do, but they may or may not be able to be completed by the time that the money needs to be spent. And also,
You mean highway project?
highway projects, yeah, and also, that, there's also grant opportunities that we're pursuing. We can't, so some of his projects are going to be delayed because we can't do anything until the grant application processes are complete. I think the consensus was to use the ARPA money for Ononda, a big chunk of it, some of it maybe for the Bristol Crossroads Road culvert, and then using the unassigned fund balance to then work on the roadway projects. Just even increasing his highway repair general account line.
Mhm.
Just putting more money in there for him to finish up what he needed to do.
there will be some issues doing Ononda, we talked about before, do we close Ononda to do it? I mean, how are we gonna do that, to spend it by 26?
We were just doing it in the off season, so avoiding any time between that Memorial Day and Labor Day, which is our peak time, just so it has less impact. On our, residents, visitors, that sort of thing, which is completely doable. Fall and spring are the best time actually for highway to do that work over there when the ground is.
So we could close Uplands after Labor Day or something like that.
And then not open it up again until Memorial Day, so we do that fall the next spring, so
Mhm.
spring of fall of this year, spring of next year.
Yeah, I think Jim, they felt that that was definitely workable.
That was a doable timeline,
Just
just
to get a
we
road
would start
in,
this fall.
electric, separate septic, getting that all,
How much is the total for that?
Oh, was it 8?
So MRB had sent us. An estimate, it was around just under 3 million.
Yeah,
100% done. Yeah.
that's for everything.
But-
Right.
So,
With the
yeah,
exception of new cabins, it did not include the purchasing of cabins.
887.
I think we looked at around.
What can you do for
800,000.
the 887?
So we also have the CM fund, the capital project, the CM capital project. So that we can definitely use towards that, and that's constantly being backfilled by new houses and such that people are building too, so. So that's another little
So would
chunk.
that get us, because I know we're at 3 million for Ononda, that did have a 30% contingency on it, so there's a chance that we will be lower, there's a chance. But still looking at that 3
Yeah, the
million,
number he gave us didn't have that back on it.
no, so, I
He
mean,
felt that was.
the contingency will eat up, that would, yeah,
True.
make it to that point. What's in the
The
park?
CM still 588, I don't know.
No, it's not.
I did.
It's on the front here, right on the front, CM 100,
Oh, okay.
new
Oh my
record,
goodness,
it's 589, basically, so.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, you guys had picked through and it was around 800,000 to get the road in, the electric separate, septic and the bathhouse.
Yeah, there was something that was
So
between
kinda
8
getting
and
a
9
big, like,
that was
chunk.
getting you up there anyway.
Mhm.
Getting that up there and usable, but it wasn't, I think it didn't have sewer, maybe? I don't know what it was. There was something that was not, is Jim still on?
No.
So. But no matter what, we have a plan.
But
and-
we're at one, with
Place to
those two
start.
together, we're at 1.46 roughly. If we'd
Right.
used all the art, if it was that 888 plus what's in the parks fund, the 588. That would roughly put us at around,
1.5 or something.
About half of it.
yeah,
Would you spend all of 588?
that's, I don't know.
About doing that. You have to do something in one of the other parks. Yeah, and it can only be used for.
Improvements,
capital
yeah.
improvements, Not maintenance, but.
Hmm.
You wanna leave something in there,
Brings it right.
It does refill though, pretty well,
leave 100 grand in it or some number.
yeah. But it does, I mean, how much, do we know how much went into it last year? The Parks Fund? Cause we bought the property next to 13 acres, didn't we buy that out of the Parks Fund?
We bought it out of
The
open space
extra or not?
reserve.
That one was out of open
Right?
space reserve? I thought it was a combo.
So fund balance CR 100 Parks and Reserved FBC Revenue Fund. Is that what we're talking about right now?
No.
The FBC one, that's the form-based code area. That's why that's at 0.
That's 0. Is
Yeah.
that right that that's 0?
Yes,
Yeah.
because that's when they build a new house in the
Okay.
form-based code area, it'll
Yeah.
get $1,500
Okay.
for each unit.
So we're talking about the 588 above.
We're talking, yeah, we're talking about CM 100, the Parks Fund. And that can only be used for park improvements, capital improvements to the parks, not for maintenance. And that one gets funded every time somebody builds a new unit in the town, they pay $1,500 into that fund. Yeah, I know, I just, it's a lot of information, but I don't know, does anybody else have thoughts on ARPA?
I think the last time we talked at the PPW meeting, there was some discussion about splitting the money between. Or not necessarily, splitting the money in some way between the Bristol Road cross culvert replacement and Parks and Recreation Fund.
There
I
was,
believe Jim said that the Bristol Road cross culvert repair replacement could be done for about 400,000.
and my opinion on that was that that should be coming out of the reserve funds. Or the capital improvement fund already for highway,
Or the unassigned.
Unassigned.
or the unassigned fund balance.
I think that was kind of our consensus too, when we spoke with that part, you know, if there's any left of the ARPA, that, we could take some from there, and then there was, you know, unassigned fund balance, so a combination of the two would cover the road culvert.
Combination of what two?
ARPA and unassigned fund balance.
That's what we talked about at the PPW meeting.
So why wouldn't he spend some of the reserve fund or the highway repair capital project on that? Because that's what it's kind of for, so that's why we put it
I
there.
guess we were just kind of focusing on, we met before I did this packet, and I think we were, when we met, we were
Yeah.
trying to focus on. How to identify things that, one, we could spend ARPA on in the
Mhm.
time of allotted, and then two. What would the recommendations be if we were to, put the unassigned fund balance that we anticipated that we would need to allocate?
Cause he's got about 500 in the highway, H39 highway road improvement capital project. And he's got 300 and what is it? 355 in the highway improvement reserve fund. I just feel like we've already designated money for things like that that come up and are needed. But. I mean, obviously it needs to be done. It's just, I feel like if we already have money in the place that is designated for that purpose, why not draw from there first and use the ARPA for a different place? So,
Your discussion with Jim, this balance in the capital project for highway roadway is 485 grand. Did you have some plan where you would use that, or?
didn't you put some in here for where it was spent last year? I thought you put something in one of our packets. Cause we were talking about that after the PPW meeting. I think you did,
Did you have discussion with them?
yeah.
So,
She put something in here, I remember, because we talked about that.
that would pay for the Bristol Crossroads, probably,
Yes, exactly.
plus any unassigned fund balance you might throw at it.
Which we definitely will want to throw some unassigned fund balance out.
But I don't know if you have some other plans, he's not here, so. we can-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it was when we set up.
Hmm.
As opposed to, the.
We set it up last year, so.
Yeah, as opposed to how the other capital projects are set up. The budget really isn't specific or complete for those capital projects.
No, we
Normally you
just-
set
The
up
two new
budgets.
ones.
Money in.
We dumped the money in it, but we didn't really say, you know, what we were gonna, you know, we knew this much was gonna be spent on engineering, and then whatever was left over after that proposal, we just put in under highway. So it didn't really, like, just give them, you know, name tag on it.
But you looked at it, what did he spend it on last year? You looked it up, we were talking.
He spent it on.
He spent about half of it
Oh,
out.
he did, yeah, so he used, was engineering, he used it just for golf road paving, asphalt, you know, aggregate, stuff like that. As for which roads, it doesn't tell me.
Like extra road type stuff.
Yeah, so he used it to offset, I think, costs of the, you know. Stuff that, I think he ended up doing more roads last year than was on his was it 284?
284.
And so he used these funds for the.
Yeah.
Supplies for those,
We've had to redo those.
yeah,
I think because.
yeah.
All right, let's put the 887 in the park and But. Got to. This group has got to realize wants versus needs, and I still don't. Not comfortable with this group understanding.
I get it. I mean, I'm all
I
take,
don't believe that.
take 887 and put it into the highway road improvement capital project from our,
Put it, because it has to be done, there's a time frame there. You have to make a commitment by the end of this year. On paper saying, here's where we're gonna spend it, so do it.
Yeah.
Then it's done.
no, but what I'm saying, Terry, is, I mean, I think from our unassigned fund balance that we have this $3 million floating around, I
Yeah.
think the large majority of that should go toward the highway.
If I-
So that's, I mean,
won't support it.
Can I throw something out? So we have 888 ARPA to Ananda. We have 500 from the CM 100 going to Ananda. That puts us at 1.38 million. That can get us pretty far up.
If you spend all the,
no, if we spent all of it,
I think we have to pull some of that.
if we spent
that's
all of
not
it,
all
it's
of that.
1.476.
But
So
but that's not spending all of the CM 100.
Yeah.
That's leaving.
it's 1.476 if you spend 100% of both.
But so it's not spending all of the CM 100. It's leaving a chunk in there.
I think and someone had asked what the revenue was. I think it was 80,000 last year in revenue in the CM.
And I'm just
Thank you.
throwing that out for, that could adjust, but that gives us the nut to get up to make a chunk, make a dent. What if we were to propose 2 million into highway from the unassigned fund balance? That is some major work on the roads. Or or the water project as well.
well, yeah, okay, I just would. You really need Jim here to say.
Right.
Can you
How much he
spend
wants,
$2 million?
Right,
So,
right.
literally, these are my notes from the meeting, and it was 2 million
Water
from the
wet.
unassigned fund balance.
Well, no, but we had, you look at what we put in.
No, but he
last
doesn't
year,
have, right,
And you got 486,000 left from.
Yeah.
A million.
I
That was from a
literally-
million.
I said,
Oh.
Jim, I said, I really wish you were gonna be this meeting because I said, if you give it your blessing, I think that
Right.
it, would have more impact. So he said his thoughts were unassigned fund balance, $2 million. Putting enough in the town hall renovation fund to finish the town hall renovation, which there's 200, right? So we just.
Yeah, we need about 250 in there. Yeah.
And then he had Goff Road, North Road, Bristol Road culvert. Putting money towards, just increase his highway improvement regular contractual line. And then he said he needs about 150,000 for salt barn repairs.
My-
So
my
those were the three
recommendation-
Things that he had suggested for unassigned fund balance.
I apologize.
That's okay.
My recommendation is. For this meeting, I think if we can come out of it agreeing that we're gonna use all the ARP money for Ananda. And then we have a follow-up meeting, whether that's at PPW or the next finance meeting. With Jim in attendance, and we start talking about. How much of the general fund we are going to allocate to highway would be the prudent course of action.
can I also propose that we agree to take 300 from the reserves, from the unallocated reserve to the town hall renovation fund, which would put that at 120,000 roughly.
The reserve fund.
Which would give enough to complete the
We're
project,
gonna pull that.
You want
out
the
of
reserve fund
general
or-
the unallocated reserve fund,
The unassigned balance.
the unassigned fund balance,
Do you want that in the capital fund or the reserve
the
fund?
capital project.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because I think for
Yep.
everybody's sanity upstairs.
Yep.
Would you guys agree?
Yes.
We need to move and make a commitment on that.
Are you zeroing out that campus repair reserve? Cause that's
No.
not just
No,
No,
taking it down to, from 220.
that's why he's doing 300, because we need 500 all
So,
around.
I'm-
so.
Just to clarify, you want to take 300,000 out of the.
Unassigned fund balance.
Unassigned fund balance, or you wanna take it out? Yeah,
the unassigned fund balance.
okay, just wanted to.
So 300 out of the unassigned fund balance,
And
that,
then, well,
that'll
and
put
then- and then
335 in the H42.
And whoever's doing meeting minutes, if we could just
Summarize it.
summarize that or
Yeah.
document it, that would be helpful, I think.
Yep.
And y'all have to excuse me, because I gotta run.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that'll put 335 in H42. And then we could pull whatever we need remaining from that from the reserve fund.
Yes.
to get to that 500 or wherever we end up.
Principle for that.
The paper, need to see what Jim said.
Well, that's, if he can't spend 2 million bucks.
Yeah.
But,
God knows what's
I
happening.
mean, you still got money left the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I mean, all depends on,
We can also put it in the water.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, I would. Yeah, he's gotta sit here and say, you
yeah,
know,
he's,
he does.
I don't wanna give him the money if he isn't gonna spend it.
I'm with you on
Put it
that.
in something else.
Right,
that
exactly.
We can do.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But I mean, I think that is that enough of that balance.
But what we really do also need to think about before the next time we have this discussion too is, are we comfortable with following our policy and taking 3 million out of that?
I would like to change the policy.
That's what I'm saying. We either need to change the policy or we need to follow the policy. One or the other.
I just like to have a little bit more in case something goes bad.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I learned a lot lately, so I was reading into this and I didn't really understand how to calculate this initially because of the way it's worded. It says that it is of the average annual appropriations. So I wasn't sure what that included, but I remember discussions from last year that we said, oh, it has to be around 1.5 million. So that average annual budget appropriations is just for the general fund expenses, right? And not the entire budget. You know, our entire.
Yeah,
town
general
budget's
fund, yeah, yeah.
$14 million. I
Right,
did the
right.
calculations. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
compared to what we talked about last year.
Yeah.
So I agree. I kind of think that's low.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I mean, 3 million is basically, you know, closer to the 15% than
Yeah.
the 30%, but, or wait, yes.
Okay.
Closer to the 30% than the
Yeah.
15%. But whatever it is, I mean. I don't know who we would ask about this. Association of Towns, I don't know, but,
I can email
But-
the comptroller's office. They are
but I
willing to.
just, we need to, if we have a policy. Follow a policy,
Right.
or fix the
Change the
policy so that it
policy.
works, you know, whatever it is. Every year for us to be millions of dollars off, it's just not
Well,
right.
with that,
So,
And two, I mean, I mean, it's just like anything, you have inflation, right? So 30%, great, all right, well. That 30% is not gonna cover, you know, your loaf of bread used to be a quarter.
Exactly.
Your loaf of bread is $5,
Right.
so 30% at maximum seems kind of low. 'Cause
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
everything is going to cost more.
Because the other thing, and I agree with what you're saying, Emily, in there too, is we look at that and we adjust it. But we also, I mean, it's hard to say, you know, if we want to be cautious and have that padding. In case, you know, something cataclysmic happens. But to have that, it's a nice problem to have, $3 or $4 million.
Yep.
But then again, it begs to, is there anything that we can do more effectively?
mhm.
So we don't have that $3 or $4 million. Are we budgeting effectively? Are we doing it in the most effective way for the taxpayers and the most fair way for the taxpayers?
Well, that's one of the first trainings I ever had. That was one of the things they said was, you know, don't think about this like your home budget where you keep your nest egg for a rainy day. If we're taxing people money, we need to spend the money that we tax them.
Exactly.
We don't need to hang on to it for no apparent reason, which we already have. I mean, don't, keep in mind too, yes, we have this unassigned fund balance, but we already have a heck of a lot. I mean, if you added up how much is in capital projects and,
We have
and,
$20 million invested.
yeah,
Leveraged in different banks, so we're protected.
I mean, it's a lot of money that we have just sort of floating.
but but some of that money is tied up.
Oh, it's already tied up. It's
Yeah.
already tied up and
You
it's,
can't touch it.
it's for other things and it's for bonds, but
But like,
also.
if you added these up, how much do we have in capital projects? You know, I mean, it's,
But this also might
just
be
capital
like, we're
projects.
talking about needing to fund bigger projects, bigger
Mm-hmm.
capital projects, maybe. Maybe we have the tax rate right there. Because, you know, if we have this, you know, we have this rolling surplus all these years, we have that amount. To pay the debt for
Mhm.
these capital projects.
Yeah.
Without impacting the tax rate by 20 cents, 25 cents.
Yeah, I like airline, the same thing. The training that I went to was. That's what the comptroller looks at.
Yeah.
Are you charging so much tax that you have excess revenue in millions every year?
Yeah.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Um,
It doesn't make sense for your
No.
own personal finance. You're like, no, I gotta keep this I'm gonna retire
Because they
someday,
all
blah, blah,
say,
blah.
right? Like, same thing as
Yeah.
you don't want the state to be taxing you, right?
Exactly,
And
but
then,
No,
Yeah,
that many years ago, we didn't have any
um,
numbers and, you know, ranges for,
mhm.
fund balances and, all that. I mean, this is comptroller's office told us you gotta do it.
let's say, how, do you know how we,
Sitting there.
how do we come up with these fund balance policy? Do you know, Terry?
It was just based on previous expenditures, looking at how much we like for, general fund. We looked at how much had been pulled from that pot that we had,
Sure.
which was just kind of a big lump. And how much was put in and, you know, and I think they offer some guidance on ranges of
Mhm.
percentages.
Sure.
Comptroller's office.
Do you know what it is?
Took
But
what
they're
our
not-
experience was.
But they're not specific.
Yeah.
because, Like
No.
school districts can only have like
Yeah,
3% in their reserve funds. And so everything I've gone to too is like, don't push too hard for more
Yeah.
guidance. Because school districts did that and their guidance
They
was,
got-
okay,
they got
you
the guidance,
3%,
Okay.
5% or whatever it is. So they're like, don't complain about
Yeah.
the vague nature of the guidance you're given, because it could be a heck of a lot worse.
So I will say one thing though, when we do bring in our new manager, this is a great first project to assign them to, because it'll give them familiarity with all of our finances and where we are, and for us to simply say to them, you know, hey, we'd like you to figure out, looking in the past and looking forward, where the best place is to keep this percentage for the fund balance. I think it's a great way to train them on how we're spending our funds and where it's going, and for them to look at the big picture before they start looking at the small, you know? But,
And when we're done, I do have a quick executive session. I would ask for it
Okay.
to be quick.
do we want to keep talking about this, or we're good for now?
We're good, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've got a
We-
resolution for New Wave, 2 years.
Yep.
Resolution to increase the attorney line, up to 32,000 from contingency, is that mine?
from unassigned fund balance
Sign fund balance. I mean,
Yep.
or the contingent tax reserve, but I think we can only do that in
No,
budgeting, so.
contingency fund.
Oh, yeah, no.
Resolution to allocate 300,000 of unassigned fund balance to the town hall renovation capital project.
Before we allocate that
42.
money, should we hold until we have a final number from MRB? Should we agree that we're gonna fund that money, but we don't know what their final number is gonna be? We don't have a number.
We can always add money.
Yeah,
but-
what can we add to it?
I mean,
When you close the capital project, you can either add or you can float it back to general fund.
Yeah, I don't think we need to
Okay,
worry about
all right,
it.
that's
It's up to, I mean, you guys are the board.
I mean, at least that way we.
When we spend it, we'll have to put, this is how, you
Yeah,
know,
no,
we'll
but
spend
we might end
it.
up needing, what I'm saying. is
More.
Might need more.
More.
We
Right.
could put more in if we.
Okay.
Well, if it's 500, you're gonna use 300 from unassigned fund balance.
And there's already two.
Yeah, but you're gonna almost zero that out.
Mhm.
We're gonna leave that at like 30,000. We're gonna leave that. So
Because it's other.
Yeah,
are you saying we should put 5 or put in 4 or 350?
No,
Oh, yeah, I would put in more from fund balance.
Oh,
Leave
More on the.
What's in here?
Leave some in that.
221,000 in here.
I-
I'd do that at 100 grand.
I would-
or something.
Okay.
I would stick it at 300 because that's what John was in agreement with, and we can change it if we want to on the 22nd.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Where
Because,
are we supposed to get a number from?
That we've had variations. We need to meet again because the last drawing needs to be changed. Because the things that they put in there aren't gonna work, so they need to do some more internal. The big facade things aren't gonna happen. But there's some other internal things that are gonna need to happen.
So we don't know, really.
The answer to your question is we don't know.
let's put it for now at 300. We can have a further discussion with it about it at the resolution time on the 22nd, if we want that number to be different.
Did
So,
you have other?
and then a resolution that we are gonna allocate the remaining ARPA funds to.
Onondaga Upland improvements.
87.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Onondaga. Did we create a capital project yet for Onondaga? We should create a capital project for Onondaga Uplands and fund it with that money.
No,
No, why?
because. ARPA funds have to.
Oh, they have to be their own thing. Yeah.
And.
Okay.
That doesn't count. for
Ignore me.
everything. It'll be a little confusing.
Okay, ignore me.
Within ARPA, I have separate account codes for each thing that we've spent money on already, like
Okay.
subcategories, so it'll still be.
I forget that
Yeah.
ARPA is its own special thing, so.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool.
the need.
Thank you for remembering that and knowing
for
that.
Other than,
Yeah, we should, just so that we have it clear and we can find it later. I mean, I think it's better to have a superfluous resolution than no resolution.
tomorrow, right?
No, no, come on, guys.
Okay.
Susan, she can't get on her computer, so you have until Monday. She can't log in remotely.
I'm working.
But that doesn't mean don't work on them all weekend
She makes me
long.
nervous.
Oh, no, Jess.
I
Well,
don't want to get in trouble.
can we in somehow, I mean,
It's good.
you sure? I don't want you working, okay.
I'll, wait, I can only have George go.
No. Which reminds me, at some point, I'm gonna probably be introducing a resolution for there to be some sort of adjustment to
Mhm.
Jess's salary, because she is not a finance clerk too, when she does stuff like
No.
this, so. So just you can feel free to write that resolution if you want between two of you.
It's at the top of the list.
Yeah, Wednesday, yeah, I'm working on that
I
one.
got time for that one.
Anyway, okay, so are we good then? I don't think I had anything left on the agenda really beyond that. No, I didn't. So the next.
I wanted to mention something if I.
Oh,
could.
yes. Hi, Crystal, I'm sorry.
I am here, believe it or not. I'm
Hi.
just working away. I wanted to remind you that I am gonna be putting a resolution on to remove Babcock Hall from the fee schedule.
What's Babcock Hall again?
It's one of the halls at Oneonta.
Up on the uplands?
No, it's like,
Where?
we were gonna try to do birthdays at Babcock, but we don't.
Is that the
have-
one that's over by the sheriff's boat?
Correct.
Okay, that's okay.
We just don't have the parking to hold.
To hold
another
anything
type of venue like that, so.
Okay.
So I just wanted to remind you and give you that heads up. I'm gonna work on that today so that it gets on the agenda.
So had we been renting it in the past, or this is the first year we thought we could?
We tried, but I mean, there hasn't been interest.
So maybe if the Parks Committee can start thinking about what else to do with that space, it's a big old building.
We have the Y. The Y has been using, or the Y has used it.
Okay.
As like an internal space.
Right, we just need to remove it from the fee
I'm sorry.
schedule for the public.
Until we fix our lakeside parking issue, I wouldn't recommend adding another rental facility.
Mhm. Okay. That's next Ononda Park capital project, the lakeside capital
Parking
project,
garage?
yeah. No,
Tunnel.
the tunnel will be great.
Tunnel, the rest of the road.
We'll build it on top of the creek bed. Anyway. I'm kidding, by the way, for the. All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn? I'll second it, or you can second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're now gonna enter executive session as requested by the supervisor.
Because you might hear some of it, just, we won't record.
So do we have to have a motion to enter executive session? We do, right?
Yeah.
Shut down the.
Terry, will you second me on entering executive?